Hello, I'm Michelle Kotler. Welcome back to my series called Special Ed Unfiltered, Real Stories, Real Struggles. So one of the jobs that I've had over the course of many years was the education director for a day treatment center in Chevy Chase, Maryland, which is a very affluent suburb of Washington, D.C., but it's actually right on the border of upper Northwest Washington, D.C. So I don't even know that you'd call it a suburb. It's kind of an urban landscape in places. The clientele primarily were affluent Caucasian people for the most part, at least back then, 30 years ago. So our day treatment center was an intensive outpatient program. So we served people who were coming out of inpatient treatments, such as mental health hospitalizations or inpatient drug rehabilitation programs and so forth. They were coming to us for structured therapeutic programming throughout the day, and then they would go home at night. I was in charge of education for the adolescents in this program. Now, one thing I learned, this is a little bit of an aside, but one thing I learned fairly quickly after getting there was that people were only as sick as their health insurance allowed them to be. I was very naive at the time. And to some degree, I probably still am in certain ways. But back then, I did not realize that health insurance determines treatment. So if someone had really good health insurance benefits, even if they were doing much better and really did not need to still be in the program, they still needed to be in the program because there were benefits that we could claim. And then no matter how poorly somebody was doing and how much crisis they might still be in, if their benefits were coming to an end, they were getting better and it was time for them to be discharged. So I pretty quickly figured out that this is a scam. Feels like fraud to me, but whatever. That's America. So I want to tell you a story, and trigger warning, there is some cursing in this story. So if you don't like cursing, this is your chance to exit out and watch another video, because most of my videos do not include cursing, but this one does, because I am bringing real stories to you, exactly how things happened and exactly the things people said. My job there was to help support students continue their educational programming while they were in treatment and then transition them back to their public schools when their insurance benefits ran out. So I had students of different ages working in different grades, working on different subject matters, and I had to support all of them and assist all of them. And when they did their work and they had a good day, then they would get a little treat, a piece of candy or something on their way out to go home. So one day I got a new student, and she was not like any of my other students. She was an African American young lady. The rumor was she was in a gang in Washington, D.C. She had come out of inpatient drug treatment. We think they let her out too soon. Probably she was released because her health insurance ran out. What a surprise. And she was still using, but we didn't know that immediately. So she comes into my classroom because she's an adolescent and refused to do any work. She wouldn't do anything. She didn't want to try to become friends with anybody. She felt she didn't fit in. She was unhappy to be there. It was very clear. So I was not going to push her or start an argument or create a problem or a ruckus in my classroom when everyone else was, peacefully doing their work, and I would walk around and help them. At the end of the day, she decided that she wanted to get a treat because she saw the other students getting treats. And I did not want to trigger an eruption in her, but I also was not going to give her a treat because she didn't earn it and everyone else did earn it. So I said to her, listen, today's your first day here. You're learning the ropes. You're learning how things work. And these students got their treats because they did schoolwork in my classroom today. So tomorrow when you come back, you'll have a better day. You'll do some schoolwork and you'll earn a treat. And she said to me, you motherfucking whore. And I said to her, without batting an eyelash, you will never get a treat from this motherfucking whore the whole time you are in my classroom. And those students whipped their heads around so fast, I thought their heads were going to roll off their necks. Because no one is going to sense any drop of fear from me in my classroom. Because the minute they sense any kind of fear or upset, you've lost them and they've got you by the genitalia. I knew it and she knew it. So she was not going to get the satisfaction of any kind of reaction out of me other than the reaction that she got. She just walked out. And I thought, there goes that job. Nice while it lasted. Do you know not one person ratted me out? Or if they did, I never heard about it from administration. Nothing happened to me at all. Nobody said anything to me. Nothing. So the next day I come back to work and she's there. And I said to her, why don't you tell me what you would like to learn while you're here? And I will teach it to you. And she said, I'd like to learn math. And I said, fine. So I walked over to my bookshelf and I got a math textbook and started at the very beginning of it. And we went page by page until she got to something she did not know how to do. And she said, she pointed to, she said, this, I don't know how to do this. I said, okay, I'll show you. I remember it was adding fractions. And I taught her how to add fractions. She was very smart. She learned it quickly. And I told her that. I said, look how smart you are. You learned that right away. And she was beaming from ear to ear. She got the biggest smile on her face. And she said, I want to do more. I want to do more. And I kept showing her more and more and more. And then at the end of the day, she said, I want some homework. I want to show my dad what I learned. I said, sure, give you homework. So I gave her some homework. You know, she did the homework. Of course, she got a treat. I went ahead and gave her a treat because she did work. She did earn it, even though I told her she wasn't going to get one. I changed my mind and I said to her, listen, you worked really hard today. You did a great job. You learned a lot. I'm going to let you have a treat. And so she was very happy about that. And every day she came in and she learned math. She was very bright. And unfortunately, she tested positive for drugs again. And we had to discharge her because we were not equipped for that. We were not a drug unit. And I was actually sad to see her go because she had a lot of potential. Who knows where she could have gone if she had stayed with me? Of course, it was a short-term program, so she couldn't stay forever no matter what. I don't know how she turned out. I know the odds were definitely against her. If she's alive and well and somewhere, and maybe someday she'll even see this video 30 years later and she'll say, I remember that lady. Maybe she turned out to remember that someone told her she was smart and she was capable and she can learn. Maybe that helped her turn a corner. I don't know. I don't know. I hope so. I know that sounds naive and I don't want to seem naive, but I hope that maybe somehow that small interaction had a positive impact on her. And I hope she turned out all right. So thanks for watching.